South Africa's brand reputation has improved globally, and that's according to the findings of the 2024 South Africa Global Reputation Study that's compiled by international firm Bloom Consulting in partnership with the national marketing agency Brand South Africa. Now, the Global Reputation Study evaluates perceptions about South Africa and its reputation across 17 countries, which include the United States, the UK, Germany, China, Japan, Canada, Botswana, Egypt, and Kenya among those countries. Now, to tell us a little bit more about the study and also looking at that improvement, we're joined by the acting CEO of Brand South Africa, Sithembile Ntombela. Thanks so much for speaking to us this morning, Sithembile, and welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Sakina, and good morning to your viewers.
So this global reputation study was first launched in 2022, and what we've seen, perhaps as a key highlight, is that South Africa is actually improving. So as you know, Brand South Africa, this must be good news to you.
Great, yeah, it is good news. In fact, it's great news considering that we are we've just celebrated our 30 years of democracy, but more so, it gives a picture of hope, Sakina. And I think one will have to acknowledge and understand that the nation branding space that we operate in is a space that is pretty much influenced by perceptions. It's influenced by, sentiments, unlike, a transactional, space like a tourism. You can measure the number of visitors, etc., and you can create demand. So for us, it's great to see that, since 2020, there have been some movements and they are upward, particularly in the areas of creative arts, in exports, and in the economy.
Now, you mentioned tourism very briefly there, and if we look at tourism, we see that tourism has actually experienced a slight decline in positive perception, and it is now behind prominence, which has grown rather significantly, and that speaks to the general reputation of the country. But, let's look at tourism, because we generally look at this as a good indicator and one that we want to improve upon. So what is happening in that sector?
So this perception, firstly, we know that tourism contributes largely to our GDP. We are talking about almost 13% of our GDP. But now when we look at the trend over the years, it has been, on an upward trajectory. This recent, it's actually not even a drop, Sakina. I would say it has remained slightly, stagnant. It comes from the Americans, it comes from Europe. And if you would recall, there were incidents during 2023 where there were, I think, German tourists as well that were sort of, I think, killed in the Limpopo province. And I think partially when we drill down to the numbers, it brings up crime as a disabler to tourism, the issues around safety in as far as tourism into South Africa. But the two countries that have significantly shown a sliding slope is the Europe market as well as the US. And we know, for the reason that I've cited, that it has to do with the safety of our tourists, which then says to us as the nation brand, working together with the Ministry of Police, will have to make sure that there's police visibility, there are interventions. And not only that there are interventions, we communicate those interventions globally and to our domestic markets as well, so that there is an understanding in terms of the ratio of police vis-a-vis the people on the ground. And I think some of the interventions that are being done, they are quite good, but they're seldom communicated. And that's where sometimes we fall short as a country.
And Sithembile, if you look at it, there are, of course, contrasting sentiments in even that perception when you look at countries in the Middle East, in Africa, as opposed to perhaps Europe and the Americas. So have we been able to, drill down to find out why we have those differing perspectives?
We are busy, as we said, with the report we launched on Friday and released it on Friday. We are busy with the analysis, but top of mind, the Africans, contrary to what an ordinary South African would believe, that because of the perceived narrative that portrays us as, anti-Africa or Afrophobia, as they say, Africa really ranked South Africa quite high in all dimensions. And I think it has to do with the role of South Africa, particularly if you go back to the COVID period. We were very instrumental in providing, for instance, the vaccine, but we also subscribe to a better world, a better Africa and a better world. And I think that is at the foundation of the strategy that we do as South Africa from a foreign affairs perspective, all around. And I think that was what largely has shaped. What I'm surprised, though, is the perception of UAE to South Africa. That's quite, astonishing for me, because not only are they new in the game of nation branding, but also when you look at what has been happening lately with, the investment from Saudi Arabia and with the visa regime being, more opened up to enable a better trading environment. I think those are the few things that we really sometimes take for granted, but they're very pertinent in shaping the overall reputation of the country. But also both UAE and the African continent, they tend to do more searches around South Africa's higher institutions of learning, which also tells us that from a talent, even getting South Africans to come and work in UAE on the African continent is also one of our greatest assets, our people and their skills. And I think you would know that the community of South Africans residing in the UAE has been increasing over the years. So that's a very pleasing story to us as Brand South Africa. And it also says perhaps we need to maintain a strategy there whilst penetrating and fixing where we are not doing very well in other countries.
Well, Sithembile, thank you so much for speaking to us, and a good note on which to end today's show off. South Africa looking at the global reputation stakes, and we've improved with a 68% positive perception among the countries surveyed. Thanks so much to the acting CEO at Brand SA, Sithembile Ntombela, speaking to us about that global reputation study. And we'll take that. If you want to go and have a closer look at that report, as Sithembile said, it was released on Friday, feel free to do so. Absolutely. But we'll take the upshot.
We'll take the good news where we find it. Anyway.